The scene opens with a coworker noticing someone typing rapidly on a keyboard, only to realize that it is the MC's mother, who seems unusually lively as she works, prompting the coworker to comment that she looks especially happy today, which makes the mother turn around in slight confusion and ask if it is really that obvious, and the coworker replies with a smile that the happiness is practically radiating from her, teasingly asking if there is a nice man on her mind. To which the mother calmly responds that if she means someone good, then yes, he is a good person, before softly smiling and clarifying that things between her and her son have been going well lately, making the coworker laugh as she congratulates her and remarks that it is just about her son after all. And as she walks away, she reminds her not to forget about the drinking party later that evening, to which the mother agrees, but as soon as she says it, her thoughts drift back to her earlier conversation with her son, recalling how she told him that it was not too late to start over and that she would make things right, though a sense of urgency creeps in as she worries that time may be running out. Yet she reassures herself that there is still time and quietly insists that everything will be fine. Meanwhile, the MC is seen staring into a plastic bag filled with peaches, looking troubled as he wonders if he ended up with far too many, recalling how he had listened to an old man's story, and before he knew it, was handed an overwhelming amount as a kind of special favor, even remembering the old man tearfully insisting he take them, which leaves him now thinking that it is not just that he bought too many, but rather that he received more than he could possibly handle. Since no matter how he looks at it, the quantity is excessive for a household of 3, and as he mutters this to himself, someone suddenly rides up beside him on a bike and greets him, causing him to turn around cautiously and jokingly respond that they are not interested in dealing with female thieves, only for the rider to remove her helmet and call out to him in mild protest, revealing herself to be Haimyama, whose appearance catches him off guard as she playfully questions why he would label her a thief. While he, still surprised, comments that he did not expect her to be the type to ride a motorcycle, and she casually replies that while it is not exactly a hobby, she has always enjoyed driving, though cars feel cumbersome and inconvenient. And with a light smile, she adds that next time she will bring an extra helmet for him because she has always wanted to go on a 2-person ride, which only makes him feel oddly uneasy as he wonders why that idea makes him anxious. While she strikes a teasing pose and reassures him that it would be fine even if he ends up clinging to her, prompting him to jokingly insist again that she really does sound like a suspicious character, before she shifts her attention to the bag in his hands and asks what he is carrying since it looks quite heavy, and he offers her some of the peaches, explaining that his family would not be able to finish them all, to which she responds with a hint of surprise before suggesting that if that is the case, they should take them and eat them together at her place. Hearing her suggest that they eat the peaches together at her place immediately makes him nervous, as he realizes he has let his guard down and is now naturally being led into going to Haimyama's house again, and thinking that he needs to get out of this somehow, he bows his head and tries to come up with an excuse, intending to say that he is busy, but instead blurts out that he has no plans at all, which only makes her visibly happy, while he internally scolds himself for being such an honest fool. Soon after, they are at her house, where she calmly peels a peach and begins talking about how she recently met her older brother, who is about to get married, explaining that it was their first meeting in several years, and that he had gathered everyone to share the news, though even during such an occasion, it felt like there was barely any time to relax, prompting him to congratulate her and ask what kind of work her brother does, to which she replies that it is something like government work, adding with a self-deprecating tone that everyone in her family is exceptional except for her, and although he tries to deny that, she immediately rejects it and grows serious, admitting that she feels like the only one who has not been able to move forward and has been stuck in the same place for years. He quietly responds that he feels the same, saying that both his mother and sister are capable and accomplished, while he alone is lacking, which surprises her and makes her quickly move closer to reassure him that it is not true, insisting that he is always trying his best, and seeing her genuinely worried expression leaves him wondering why she always seems so concerned about him. His thoughts begin to spiral as he reflects that no matter how much effort he puts into basketball, it feels meaningless if he cannot even play in matches, and that studying hard only serves to cover up the deficiencies in his grades without offering any real advantage, while even relationships feel the same, as something that once seemed simple and admirable has instead become emotionally exhausting, making him question whether Haimyama feels the same way as well. As he remains lost in thought, she apologizes for talking about something so dull and suggests they start eating. And as he looks at her, a strange thought crosses his mind, making him question whether he might have met her before, since from the very beginning her level of familiarity has felt unusually high, almost to the point of discomfort, which leads him to wonder if he has simply forgotten or if he is subconsciously choosing not to remember. Considering the possibility that she might be connected to a part of his past that he has deliberately buried, he sits there in silence, thinking that he had to forget painful memories in order to keep himself together, convincing himself that focusing only on the present and doing his best to move forward is the only option, and that perhaps pretending not to know each other is the safest answer, especially as she casually sits beside him, reinforcing that belief in his mind. Meanwhile, Haimyama happily eats the peach and comments on how delicious it is, asking if it is really fine for her to have so many, and he awkwardly replies that it is not a problem since he got extra from the vendor, quickly grabbing more peaches as a distraction, and telling himself that he needs to focus on eating, firmly deciding that no matter how tempting things feel, he must not let his attention drift toward anything else. And as he deliberately avoids looking at her, he tries to change the topic by mentioning something like celestial peaches, to which she curiously responds by wondering if those are the kind eaten by hermits, before casually concluding that these are just ordinary peaches, while he, feeling increasingly tense, becomes hyper-aware of how close she is, noticing the softness of her arms pressed against him in the warm weather, and thinking that the sensation is far more distracting than the fruit itself, to the point where even the slightest contact feels overwhelmingly vivid, and as he continues eating, he realizes that he can barely taste anything at all due to the tension building inside him. Himiyama notices his uneasy expression and asks what's wrong, pointing out how drenched in sweat he is. He awkwardly explains that he was just thinking about a rather outrageous peach, which makes her laugh. With a playful tone, she asks him if he likes late-harvest peaches. He replies that he likes all kinds, and she seems pleased, saying she's glad he doesn't mind fully ripened ones since most people prefer them younger. That comment only makes him more nervous, and he begins to sweat again, wondering aloud if her question had a hidden meaning. She leans closer, gently grabbing his arm, and teasingly tells him he can have her peaches anytime. This completely throws him off, and he starts stuttering in panic. His thoughts spiral. How can he feel this overwhelmed before dinner when he's already full? In a flustered state, he pulls himself free and jumps back, breathing heavily. She watches him with a small smile and remarks that it's a shame, but there will be another opportunity. Then her expression softens into something bittersweet as she adds that, after all, they've managed to meet again like this. The scene shifts to the main character back at his house. He looks puzzled as he stares at his bed, where his sister is casually lying. Confused, he asks if she realizes this is his room. She replies as if it's obvious, brushing off his concern. He comments on how bold and defiant her attitude is, though she takes it as a compliment and thanks him. He quickly clarifies that he wasn't praising her. As he watches her, he can't help but think about how naturally she makes herself at home in his space, as if it were her own. Her overprotective nature often makes him feel like she sees him as much younger than he really is. While thinking this, something suddenly catches his attention. He notices her outfit and is startled by how casual and revealing it seems. Flustered, he quickly covers his eyes and accuses her of trying to throw him off, calling her a tease. He questions why she's dressed like that, but she casually brushes it off, even mentioning that her appearance has changed recently. Embarrassed, he turns away and insists he wants no part in such conversations. She continues talking about needing new clothes, even suggesting measurements, which only shocks him further. Trying to regain composure, he keeps his face turned away, thinking about how unpredictable her behavior can be. Despite himself, he asks a question out of curiosity, which she answers with a smug confidence. Her response surprises him, and he questions why that would matter to him at all. She simply smiles and tells him to look forward to it, leaving him confused but oddly reactive. She then casually asks if he owns any inappropriate books, mentioning she didn't find any under his bed. He sighs, remarking that everything she says and does feels deliberately provocative. She steps closer, playfully teasing him again, which makes him uneasy as he tries to back away. Just as the situation grows more awkward, the sudden ringing of the telephone cuts through the tension. Using the interruption as an opportunity, he quickly rushes out of his room. As he answers the phone, a woman's voice greets him, explaining that she isn't the chief herself but a colleague. She asks if he is Yuki Tokun and then tells him that she needs his help picking up his mother from the station. Apparently, his mother had intended to take a taxi, but in her current state, drunk and passed out, she wasn't able to communicate properly. The colleague adds that it would be unsafe for her to go home alone like that. Without hesitation, he agrees and says he'll head there immediately. On his way, he reflects on how unusual it is for his mother to get drunk and wonders what led to this situation. Soon, he arrives at the station, running up to them and apologizing for the wait. The colleague is supporting his mother and introduces herself as her subordinate, Hayagai Haruka. He thanks her sincerely for taking care of his mom and bringing her there safely. Haruka brushes it off, saying it was simply her duty, especially since it was the chief's request. However, she also mentions that there's something she would like to discuss with him. This catches him off guard. Haruka gently pulls him aside and lowers her voice, explaining that his mother is usually not like this. She had just been in an unusually good mood today and ended up drinking too much. She adds that his mother mentioned being happy about making up with him. Hearing that, he seems puzzled, responding that they weren't really fighting in the first place. Haruka then glances at his mother and casually asks if he thinks she's beautiful. He agrees, admitting that even as her son, he can recognize that she's quite attractive. Haruka nods, saying that's exactly why the chief is so popular. She goes on to explain that it had been a difficult day because many men had been approaching her. He apologizes for any trouble caused, but Haruka clarifies that she doesn't mind. Then, with a more serious tone, she rephrases her point, warning him that this might not be something he wants to hear. There are many people who have their eyes on his mother. This shocks him, and he looks back at her, asking if she means something like remarriage. Haruka shakes her head, sounding slightly disappointed, and explains that it would be better if their intentions were genuine. Instead, most of them are only interested in her for shallow reasons. Hearing this makes him visibly uncomfortable. Haruka continues, explaining that people often behave inappropriately around her or try to take advantage of situations, though she admits that his mother's beauty also draws that kind of attention. He clenches his jaw, clearly displeased, saying that none of it sounds right. Haruka then emphasizes that this is exactly why he needs to look out for her. She reassures him that his mother is usually strong and capable, but situations like this can still happen. As he supports his mother, helping her stand, Haruka adds that he is probably the one person she relies on the most. Hearing that, he grows more serious. He says that if his mother ever decides to remarry, he wouldn't oppose it. However, he doesn't want her to be surrounded by people with bad intentions. Haruka pauses thoughtfully before replying that she doesn't believe that's what his mother truly wants. This only deepens his confusion. Haruka then quietly adds that, more than anything, the chief is always thinking about him. Haruka briefly recalls the expression his mother had when speaking about him earlier, but ultimately decides not to say anything more. She simply tells him to take good care of the chief before heading off. As she walks away, she once again reminds him to keep a close eye on his mother. Left alone, he sits there with his mom leaning comfortably against him, completely at ease. Soon after, the two of them begin walking home together. His mother apologizes for causing trouble, but he reassures her that it's nothing to worry about. As she leans on him for support, she suddenly asks what he was discussing with Haruka earlier. Before he can respond, her mood shifts, and she suspiciously asks if Haruka confessed something to him, making it clear she wouldn't tolerate anything inappropriate involving her subordinates. He sighs, clearly exhausted, and tells her that people don't just confess to someone they've only just met. Still unconvinced, she questions how he can be so sure and jokingly claims that he must have some kind of mysterious charm that attracts people. This leaves him confused, as he insists he's never heard anything like that before. She pouts, wondering aloud why he seems so popular, and he casually replies that maybe it's because he's her child. That answer catches her off guard. He then points out that she's quite popular herself. She dismisses it, saying she's past that stage, but he mentions that Haruka said otherwise, adding that it made him a bit uncomfortable. She laughs softly and apologizes for making him feel that way. As they continue walking, she admits that she doesn't usually act like this, but she ended up drinking too much today. She reflects that in situations like this, some people don't have the best intentions. Hearing that, he becomes serious and tells her that while he wouldn't oppose her remarrying someday, he wouldn't want her to be with someone unreliable. She responds firmly that she has no interest in shallow relationships like that, nor does she have any plans to remarry. When he asks why, she simply tells him that having him in her life is enough for her right now. He finds that answer vague, but before he can press further, she suddenly brightens up and hugs him, saying that she's happy as things are. He stiffens slightly, clearly uncomfortable, and asks her not to lean on him so much. She just laughs it off and casually suggests that they relax once they get home. This only makes him more uneasy, and he can't help but think that she can be a bit overwhelming at times. Trying to shift the conversation, he brings up something random about his sister, which briefly distracts her. She responds with her usual confident attitude, turning it into a light-hearted comparison. He can't help but question why she treats it like a competition at all. Still clinging to him, she playfully insists that she'll prove her point later, but he just assumes she's saying all this because she's drunk. As time passes, he notices that she's still holding on to him without letting go. Growing concerned, he calls out to her, wondering if she's even aware of how tightly she's clinging to him. She suddenly tightens her grip on him, her body trembling as she clings closer. Her voice shakes as she speaks, leaving him confused at first. Then, in a rush of emotion, she begins apologizing over and over, her words breaking as she says he's too kind. Through her tears, she finally reveals the truth. There was an abnormal result in her recent medical screening. It might be something serious. The words hit him hard, leaving him completely stunned. In that moment, he realizes that she must have been carrying this fear alone ever since she received the results. She breaks down, crying openly now, admitting that she hadn't planned to tell him until she knew for sure. She didn't want to make him worry unnecessarily, but in the end, she couldn't keep it to herself. She calls herself weak, her voice filled with fear, and pleads with him to come to the hospital with her. She says that if he's by her side, she won't be as scared. She begs him to give her the courage she needs. He looks at her seriously and answers without hesitation that of course he'll go with her. Hearing that, she clings to him even tighter, crying that she's scared. As he holds her, his thoughts begin to settle. Seeing her rely on him like this makes him wonder about his place in the family. But in the end, it doesn't matter to him. If being there for her can ease even a little of the weight she's carrying, then he's willing to do whatever he can. After all, she's someone important to him. Later, after they return home, he finds himself lost in thought, quietly wondering what it truly means to be a family. The atmosphere shifts again as both his mother and sister sit nearby, casually eating peaches and chatting. Watching them, he covers his eyes for a moment, recalling his earlier thoughts. His sister notices and questions what he's talking about, pointing out that they're just ordinary peaches. His mother, meanwhile, casually comments on how refreshing they are, especially after a long day, enjoying their sweetness. He glances at the two of them, still feeling overwhelmed by everything that's happened. Between the earlier emotional moment and the oddly normal scene in front of him now, he can't help but feel a strange contrast, like he's caught between something serious and something almost surreal. He feels so tense that he can barely taste anything. Even as he munches on the peaches, he wonders if they're actually good, but he can't properly enjoy them. His thoughts drift back to earlier, and he starts suspecting that this might be the same kind of situation again. In his mind, it feels like they're both secretly plotting something, probably teasing him. Unable to hold it in, he asks them what's going on with these outrageous peaches. They both act confused, pretending not to understand what he means. Frustrated, he suddenly raises his voice and says that if that's what they're trying to do, he'll just deal with it head-on like before. The moment he mentions Himiyama, the atmosphere instantly changes. His sister reacts first, questioning why that name came up, while his mother quickly follows, asking if something happened between the two of them. Seeing their sudden shift in tone, he freezes. In that moment, he realizes that he may have said something he shouldn't have. He nervously thinks about how easily words can create unnecessary misunderstandings. Before he can explain himself, both of them start pressing him for answers, each trying to get his attention. His sister insists that he should focus on her instead, while his mother dismisses her, leading to a heated back and forth between them. Caught in the middle, he trembles and tries to clarify that he didn't mean anything serious, that it was just a figure of speech. However, neither of them seems willing to back down. His sister confidently says she won't let him feel overwhelmed, while his mother questions him directly, trying to figure out what he actually thinks. The situation quickly spirals into chaos, leaving him completely flustered and unsure of how to handle it. Meanwhile, in a different place, a girl is seen speaking to her father. She tells him that she has something important to discuss. As she talks, her thoughts reveal her determination. She's decided that she will help Mitsuki no matter what. In her mind, she has already set a goal. She intends to remove the person she believes is causing trouble at school. That person is him.